We're joined today by Colonel Chris Parris, Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner. What initially interested you in serving in the state police?
So that's a very good question. Thank you. Pleasure to be here today. When I was a youngster growing up, I had an uncle who was a Pennsylvania State Trooper, and I can't really say that I ever saw myself becoming a trooper, but he was always a constant presence. I remember vividly holidays, most of which he worked, him arriving late for a plate of reheated food that was placed aside for him. And I remember being a young 4 or 5 year old, him stopping while he was working and seeing the car. So it was always a constant presence. And then at some point, maybe in undergraduate, I considered it as an option. And it's been a very good career and fulfilling career for me. And I believe that transcends every generation. I believe moving forward, there are people out there in the Commonwealth and outside that we're looking for that are well suited to join our ranks and serve in the Pennsylvania State Police.
State police are probably most visible patrolling Pennsylvania's highways. What are some of the other roles that they serve?
So if you look at the 45,000 square miles of the Commonwealth, we actually provide primary police service to the overwhelming geography, 80% of the geography. If you live in that footprint and you call 911, you get the Pennsylvania State Police to answer your call for service, in addition to all of the interstate work that we do. And beyond that, we see ourselves as a collaborative partner to our federal, county, and municipal partners, as well as our fellow state partners. So things like aviation or the bomb squad or our CERT team or the forensic laboratory services, all of those support services we see really put us in the Keystone State, in the Keystone position to collaborate to ensure public safety throughout the Commonwealth.
Can you talk a little bit about the size of the current state police complement and how you would like to see that look moving forward?
So through the passage of the fiscal code at the end of 2023, we did receive an additional 100 trooper addition to our complement. So our current numbers are capped legislatively at 4,841. That's the first complement cap increase in over 2 decades. We believe it's well justified, and we're thankful for the support of the Shapiro administration and the legislature. Both houses contain, both parties contain therein for their support in moving that complement. We believe that there's much work to do, and we believe that despite the nationwide recruiting issues that law enforcement sees, we believe that we're going to move that needle forward.
Last summer, the Shapiro administration dropped the requirement for college credits for those that are applying to be state troopers. How has that affected the pool of applicants? So
what we saw from a applicant cycle that began January of 23 and ended in July, about a 6-month window, that we only had about 898 people physically show up and take the test, and that is a dramatic decrease over prior testing cycles. And we looked hard, especially after the Shapiro budget and the support that it received. There was money allocated to hire 384 troopers, and it forced us to look very closely at the process, to look very closely at the college requirement. It's certainly not in any way not supportive of education. We have a 1,250 plus hour rigorous 26-week residential training academy, which we're always looking to update and ensure that we're providing the best possible training. In the past, we had offered waivers of the college requirement for prior law enforcement experience, 2 or 4 years in a full-time law enforcement capacity, or 2 or 4 years in a full-time military service with an honorable discharge. So when we looked at the college requirement, we basically, in trying to fill the 384 positions that we continue to look to fill, that we couldn't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We feel that our recruiting efforts are as robust as they ever have been. We're looking very diligently. And we believe that there are good people out there that want to serve their Commonwealth, serve their community. But we felt that the removal of the college requirement in consultation with the governor's office would allow access to more people. And we've seen a 258% increase over an initial testing cycle, which was 2 months, and we're currently in an additional testing cycle right now, and the numbers are in a upward trending position, and we hope that they continue to move that way.
What else is being done to help increase the applicant pool?
So we have full-time recruiters that are out there. We're constantly trying to leverage partnerships with Office of Community Engagement. We want to be as visible as we possibly can. We want to try and recruit in urban, suburban, and rural Pennsylvania. We believe that the salary and benefits package is obviously an extrinsic motivator. People contemplating what they want to do with their life always ask, what's the salary, what's the benefits, can I support a family? And we continue and are committed to ensure that remains competitive, not only against our agencies within the Commonwealth, but outside to draw people in. But beyond that, we've commissioned an advertising and marketing campaign, which will begin here in the spring, and we're hopeful that we're going to continue to try and look wherever we can for people that are interested in law enforcement and becoming troopers and serving in the Commonwealth.
The state budget that was signed last year also began to shift state police funding away from the motor license fund and to come more from the general fund. Now, what does that do for the sustainability of the state police moving forward?
So for us, we have great partners in PennDOT, and we work very collaboratively and closely with them. But the dynamic of that motor license fund was always such that those dollars were being competed by PennDOT and by the state police. And we're very pleased for the movement out of the motor license fund, and we feel that obviously there is a commitment in the Shapiro administration and in the legislature to fund the state police, public safety, and the critical role that plays, but to not have to make a de facto decision between infrastructure and public safety is definitely it's a great move, and as an agency we're very pleased with that.
Governor Josh Shapiro will make his next budget address in February. What would you like to see in that next budget for the state police?
So we're continuing with our Academy Build project. We've broken ground back in December, and that was a ceremonial groundbreaking. We're hoping to put an actual shovel and demolition in place here imminently in the spring. That is a huge game changer for us. We're looking for sustainability in high price items like technology, like the patrol fleet, like the aviation fleet, in terms of projecting those costs out over several budgetary cycles so that you're not constantly in a cycle where you have these massive expenditures that need to occur immediately, and it's much more on a schedule and a planned cycle. So we're looking at how many vacancies we have, we're looking at the complement increase, we're looking at, again, technology, trends in equipment, trends in facilities, and just trying to stay at the cutting edge.
Why was a new facility needed?
So our current Pennsylvania State Police Academy is located in Hershey. Ground was broken there in 1958, and it began training troopers around 1960. We've trained troopers in Hershey for decades before that. It's a very closely tied affinity, that geographic location for the state police. That having been said, our facility, designed as a military-style barracks in 1958, we far outpaced and outgrown what current 2024 best training police paradigms would call for. So an example for that would be we have a tactical shoot house, an outdoor range, we have a gym facility, we have a training tank, all of which are in great need of being updated. More so than that, rather than a training facility designed in the 1950s where it was largely contemplating a lecture and a seated auditorium. Here's what we're telling you. This is what the book says. We feel that hands-on training is the best training, especially in a high-stress, dangerous job like law enforcement. And the best way that we can do that is to constantly reinforce the theory with the practice. So this facility has been designed from ground up with both classroom and tactical training facilities, both an indoor tactical training village and outdoor tactical training village. If you've seen renderings of it, we feel really that it is it's a world-class facility. And what we can have in training evolutions is it's very instructor training it requires a great deal of instructor input when you have a cadet class in a classroom and then you attempt to pull people out and create different scenarios in terms of how realistic those scenarios might be. This facility, if you've seen the renderings, will allow us literally to go from a classroom space to a real-life application. Here's the scenario. We've just told you about what the law says. We told you what the best practices are. We've trained you on what the best tactics are. Now we're going to take you and put you in a scenario, a stressful scenario, perhaps like the best training we can put in a controlled environment in a potential situation that you're going to encounter out on the road being a Pennsylvania State Trooper, and set people up to demonstrate mastery of that skill. And then a further demonstration of the mastery of that skill we would articulate is being able to encounter a situation in the future. So I've now graduated from the academy. I'm not going to be able to contemplate even in a robust 1,250 plus hour, 26-week training academy, every single eventuality that a trooper is going to encounter in the next 25 years. So the real mastery of that body of knowledge is recognizing a situation that's substantially similar and realizing all the things that you were trained on and all of the tactics and all of the best practices to arrive at the successful outcome, but the situation is obviously in the future and prospective, and you have to adapt. And we really feel that that's a game changer in things like use of force and de-escalation and dealing with people in mental crisis and providing the best, most professional police service we can.
I read that the new facility will also do a better job of addressing the needs of female troopers as well, that wasn't really something that was adequately addressed in the prior or current facility.
So obviously in 1958, when it was designed, it predated the first females becoming troopers, which occurred in the early 1970s. It's a military barracks style that we've obviously updated and remodeled several times to accommodate females. But in terms of the actual numbers, this academy calls for 300 individual rooms. So if you talk about capacity, for example, right now, the current academy, if we did some things with some squad bays, so most of the rooms are 2 to a room, but if we had a squad bay where the number would be more than 2 to a room, we can fit in the low 200s at the residential academy. This facility with 300 individual rooms will allow us to have potentially two 100-person cadet classes with an additional 100 rooms that once you become a trooper, or if you're a municipal or a federal or a county law enforcement partner currently, and you come back to one of the many training spaces that we have on the Hill in Hershey, the problem is that no one wants to really stay in a barrack-style room. And there's a fiscal component to that, particularly to our municipal partners who have to pay for hotel billets, or even that's an expense that the state police bears. So we feel logistically these 300 individual rooms will help us recruit better, will be more accommodating, will allow us to deal with all sorts of issues of individuals coming in. That's your room, that's your private space. Go there. We care about the training that we're going to give you, and we care about how proficient you're going to be through that training process. But also, when we have incumbents, both within the state police and out, it's a much better training facility. And to put a real example on that, if you're a municipal agency in the Commonwealth, and you're not of a particularly great size, and you look at the training that the state police offers, a real barrier to that, we're not charging you for the training, but a real barrier for that might be the hotel and the per diem that may come with getting a hotel in the Hershey area and coming to that training, for which we do not charge. Now, a much more nominal cost. We're going to be heating and cooling the place. We're preparing meals for basic training cadet classes, so we can do that much more efficiently. And it would be a much more attractive fiscal training component to our municipal and federal partners as well. Not to say that they wouldn't benefit. And the training spaces, to continue on, our current facility has a lecture hall, for example, that seats in the low 200s as well. This new facility has a 500-person lecture hall that can be bifurcated. So again, to get way down into the weeds, but a real-life efficiency would be if we're training cadets, and that lecture hall is booked for critical training in that 1,250-plus hour training curriculum that has to occur on this date at this time. We would perhaps receive an inquiry to say, can you host a conference on this, or can we topically just within 2 weeks put together something and offer a training on a different topic? We would have to refuse that right now. But this 500-person training facility, the lecture hall, can be bifurcated into a 250-seat and a 250-seat auditorium. So if we get a call from the FBI or the Attorney General's office or any one of our municipal partners that says, can we host, this is an immediate reactionary situation that we have to get ahead of, can we use that space? Instead of interrupting that basic training that we couldn't really do now, we will have the facility to do that. So it's going to be a real game changer. If you can tell my excitement in speaking about it connotates that we really can't wait to push this project through the pipeline.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the input that went into designing this, perhaps other facilities that you looked at or experts that provided, or stakeholders perhaps that provided input on what they really needed in the future to train? Sure.
So this project is the culmination of years of planning over multiple administrations, not only within the state police, but also the governor's office. So the current renderings, we've received amazing support from Secretary Reggie McNeil and the Department of General Services for this first year of the administration to really get us to where we are. But before that, there were committees that met over a period of years to talk about what are the spaces, what do they look like. Quantico, for example, the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, has Hogan's Alley. If you've ever seen that in the movies, or if you've seen it on maybe some YouTube videos, our indoor tactical training village and our outdoor tactical training village, I feel, are very comparable and offer the best type realism. We've looked at other agencies that are also contemplating. We recently actually hosted the New Jersey State Police because they're looking at updating their facility. We're a little bit farther in that process, so they were with us last week. And we continue to collaborate through relationships like that to really talk about how can we put the best possible training together so that we get the best product when that trooper walks across the stage and graduates.
What will the facility cost, and how is it being funded?
So it's funded through Capitol Building Campaign. The numbers are in the $350+ million mark. That is still coming in with some subcontracting calculations, and I would refer you to the Department of General Services for the final numbers, but that's how it's being funded. We are committed again to, it's been designed with energy savings and being environmentally friendly in terms of geothermal heating systems, and it's designed again as a public safety jewel. If we are looking at a current facility that we've been training troopers in for the last 65 years, we certainly want to contemplate for decades to come. And that's the thought in terms of the other training that goes on at the Academy. Our mounted unit and our horses are housed there. We're trying to capitalize on some cost savings. Currently, our procurement and supply warehouse is located at a different location for which we currently expend budgetary dollars on a lease. We're going to build a facility on the Hill. The biggest consumer of our procurement and supply warehouse is our cadet classes, our cadet classes that need that equipment upon initial issuance, and we feel it's much more efficient. It's going to be much more secure. If you've seen the renderings, there's a quarter-mile track even to give physical testing for applicants. Right now, those are facilities that we have to seek off-site that will be on-site. In terms of training for civil unrest, these realistic training capabilities that we'll now have not only for the state police, but to bring in our municipal partners and our federal partners, instead of looking for space perhaps at Fort Indiantown Pennsylvania Guard, or looking at different locations around the Commonwealth to geographically hold those trainings. We'll have one centralized location.
When do you anticipate the facility will be complete? So
it's a two-phase facility. Groundbreaking is going to begin on phase one imminently here, with demolition of some existing buildings on the site, and hopefully by October of 2026, that first phase of the facility will be completed. A big component of training and planning and design was how can we continue to recruit and train troopers and keep as close to the complement as we possibly can while still building this project. So the logistics of that will be that the first phase is to be completed in October of 2026. We will occupy that training space and continue to train. From now until October of 26, we'll continue to train with existing facilities which will not be demolished to accommodate the construction of phase one. We'll move into that marquee building, and then we will finish the demolition and finish phase two of the project.
I read that 2/3 of municipalities in Pennsylvania rely on the state police for some or all of their law enforcement needs. How does that affect your troopers' ability to fulfill their law enforcement responsibilities and patrolling the highway and so forth?
So we really see, again, as I mentioned earlier, our municipal partners are there. They're there for us. We are there for them. Statutorily, the way that the state police is set up is that if a municipality, a township or a borough does not provide primary police service, if someone calls 911, we're by legislation going to provide that primary police coverage. So we really see that as it's a local municipality issue. It's a funding issue. We know that there's difficult municipal budget numbers and situations and pensions and all of those issues that exist out there. But we really see ourselves, our emphasis is, number one, we want to be as professional and as well trained and as well equipped as we possibly can be. And then number two, when we can collaborate, we're certainly going to collaborate, and we're going to be there to assist in public safety.
Shift to focus a little bit. The state police began wearing body cameras as part of a pilot program in Carlisle over the summer. What prompted this program?
So best practice, we believe, is that the body cams would offer us a lot better coverage than our mobile video recorders that have existed in the patrol cars for decades. We feel that, like the dash cams a whole generation of state police ago, I think if you polled a modern day trooper, they would have severe reluctance to not have that mobile video recording as a tool for them to do their jobs, for them to document the way that we interact with the public. The body cams we see as an extension of that, and it's a large undertaking for us, not only for the fiscal impact, and it's been a long-standing project through, again, multiple administrations of both the state police and the governor's office. So the commitment has been there to do it. There's all sorts of additional logistical issues that we face because of the number of installations that we have. In some areas, the rural nature of those in terms of the electronic and technological infrastructure that we need to put in place. And we really would like to do it correctly. Currently, the MVRs, the mobile video recorders that are in the cars, they beam into a server at the barracks when they return, when the vehicle returns to the parking lot. When you generate the volume of video that will inherently result from going to a body cam model, we really needed a cloud solution. So we have plenty of server space to accommodate the current system that's been in place for the dash cams, but that, citing one of many multiple large technological and fiscal issues, would demonstrate the magnitude of this project. So we're rolling it out in a graduated process. The feedback thus far has been good. We feel that, again, to be with best practice in 2024 law enforcement, body cams are an integral part of that.
Can you just give us a brief thumbnail sketch on how the body cameras work? For example, are they on constantly?
Sure. So the body camera is a small device that a trooper will wear mounted to the uniform, and there is a loop that is recording in there, and it's an activation that the trooper has to activate in order to key it to start recording. We have some capabilities in there to try and recover some video after the fact, but we also are dealing with the policy implications of that now. For the law has been changed for several years, thanks to the legislature, to allow a legality, basically, to make it legal to record people without their consent, even though we're not hiding the fact that we're certainly recording them. But that was a legislative fix that had to occur. But we want to make sure that we're very sensitive to the areas where we're wearing them, inside of people's homes, or perhaps, whatever the incident. We can't control the incident to which we're summoned. So we're working on that now. And again, the feedback has been good, and we're optimistic about rolling that project out, continuing across the Commonwealth.
What have you learned from the pilot program so far?
I think a lot of technological situations. Again, when you're uploading video to a cloud-based solution, there's a certain amount of data that can be stored on the camera. Our concern would be in areas, exceedingly rural areas, or areas where there are problems with cellular connectivity, data delivery connectivity, where our concern has been if that data is not uploading to the cloud and it causes a backlog or a queue on the camera, and then the camera becomes ineffectual. Now, there are dozens and dozens. I believe a current camera will hold nearly 70 hours of video. But, from a planning stage and a logistical stage, that's something that we're planning for. If you're in an area where a car is completely devoid of any sort of cellular coverage and it remains in that area, over time, that could be an issue. We don't anticipate that it's going to be, but that's one of the ways that I would give you as a real-life example where we're trying to give some thoughtful and well-thought-out planning so that the implementation is as seamless as possible.
The state police collects data on who gets pulled over. Can you talk a little bit about what you learned from that data and particularly address concerns about whether or not there's bias in who gets pulled over?
Sure. So we've contracted with Dr. Robin Engel. Our affiliation with Dr. Engel goes back to her tenure at Penn State University for over 2 decades. 2000 and 2001, I believe, are the first collaborations. Contact data reporting last year was for, in spring of 23, we released the data for calendar year 2022, and over 443,000 traffic stops. It did not, by her independent research, delineate any bias in who's being pulled over. And we continue to work very diligently to say that it's best practice to track that. We're conscious about it. That which gets measured inherently gets improved, and we welcome her independent input and scrutiny. We're about to get our second year, calendar year 2023's worth of data. I've had a briefing 6 months in with Dr. Engel and her team, and we feel that the implementation of her minor recommendations from the first report all of those numbers are trending in the right direction, and we're committed. Again, the vast majority of those traffic stops, I believe well over 80% of them, are 15 minutes or less. So when you look at the constitutionality of a traffic stop, it should not persist or last beyond that for the reason of the stop. So I feel when I look at that statistic, the vast majority of those stops, there's a reason, a legitimate reason, there's an interaction, there's an outcome, be it a citation or a warning, and then the public is continuing on, and we're continuing on with our work.
You've been leading the state police for roughly about a year now. What achievements are you most proud of so far?
Well, I'm humbled by the work of the women and men who come in every day. We've had some difficult operational periods in terms of the shooting in Juniata County with Lieutenant Wagner, who still continues to recover, and unfortunately the loss of Trooper Rougeau. We had another trooper, Logan Speece, who was shot and has recovered in Troop F. We've had situations with manhunts in Warren and Chester counties. We've had a train derailment on our Ohio border that had impacts inside of the Commonwealth. We've had an interstate collapse on Interstate 95 on one of the main arteries of the eastern United States. We've continued to push a $350+ million capital building project. We're trying to work on things like body cams and continue with initiatives like contact data reporting and recruiting, and deal with fiscal long-term planning on big ticket items. The fleet, the aviation fleet, we're looking always at our tactical capabilities for our special emergency response team. We're trying to always strengthen our partnerships with municipal, federal, county, and fellow state agencies. Those are all things that I wouldn't point to as things that I've done. I have played a role in them, and I'm very proud of that work of the team. And we pledged that we would come to work and work as diligently as we can. And I really see, as difficult as the operational times have been at points, and I'm sure I'm neglecting some things that have occurred in the last year, I really feel that what inspires me to get up and come to work every day is keeping up with the team that I'm humbled and honored to serve with.
We've been speaking with Colonel Chris Parris, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us, ma'am.